You awake yet? Wake up. Happy hump day, y'all. Wake up.
I'm gonna go.
It's nasty out today. It's warmer. 41 degrees. 3 minutes past the hour here in New York. Hope it's sunnier, or at least nicer, where you are at this moment in time. Good morning! What's up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. What is up? I hope you are having a wonderful week so far. It is Wednesday, the 24th. I can't believe we're already 24 days into the new year. And I feel like there has been a lot of stuff that's happened in as far as pop culture is concerned, movies, news, all that stuff. And we'll be talking about some of that stuff today. Obviously, if you can tell by the thumbnail and the title, big news from Netflix. Announced yesterday. Yesterday was Netflix's investors conference call, and they announced some stuff. They hinted on some stuff as well, what that could mean possibly for subscribers like you and I. If you are subscribed to Netflix, I am one of those who subscribed to Netflix when they were still doing their DVD mail delivery service. I mean, we're going way back to like the early 2000s, probably like a year or two after they started their operations. I caught wind of them and I said, oh, this is kind of brilliant. You know, you could get movies delivered to you. But the thing that really drew my attention was that they had DVDs of things I couldn't find elsewhere, especially anime. So if you were like big into anime and you were looking for like episodic anime series that you couldn't easily find anywhere at that time, Netflix had a lot of those DVDs, some of which were like out of print. So it was really awesome to be able to rent it through their service. But if someone had it in their possession, more than likely you'll be waiting months before they return that, because that's the thing with Netflix too, and I think that's how their business really it's strived, because people, and this happens today, we all have that monthly subscription that we get caught up in and we forget about, and before we know it, we're paying for this service for months, sometimes even years. Just think of your gym memberships, some online services, and because we don't pay attention. And when it came to Netflix DVDs, we would have it in our possession and we would always forget to mail it back. You know, unless you were like really hardcore and dedicated to that stuff. But that's how they got the money from you, because you would constantly subscribe on a monthly basis and you had these DVDs in your possession. And if you were to cancel your service and not return the DVDs, they will charge you a huge price tag on those DVDs for you to keep, which is usually more than retail cost for it. And that's how they get you, you know. It also reminds me of like back in the day when you know people used to subscribe to Columbia House, BMG. You know, I did all that stuff because it was enticing, right? You were enticed for like a penny or a dollar to be able to get all of these CDs or cassette tapes, depending on what time frame you were doing it. I also did the movie service, the Columbia House movie service, and I think they allowed you to have 5 or 10 VHS tapes for the price of $1 or a penny. But the catch is you have to be committed to at least buy 3 more movies, and their retail costs were like $30-$40, which is much more expensive than how it would have cost if you went to like a Suncoast or a Nobody Beats the Wiz or something like that. I'm really dating myself with all of these old references. Let's go. You know, but that's how they make their money. I get it. You know, so Netflix, I mean, the streaming platform, the streaming environment right now, we're going to see a lot of changes, and we've already started seeing some of them. Everyone's competing with each other. Everyone's trying to team up or, you know, do their thing to get subscribers, to get viewership, to generate loyalty, you know. And I think Netflix did a huge step yesterday when they announced the whole deal with the WWE, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll also talk about some headline news. Obviously, yesterday were the Oscar nominations announcements. A lot of backlash, a lot of, for lack of better way, surprises, I guess you could say, which led to some of the backlash and all that. So I'll just be recapping some of that. I mean, obviously, I did the live stream yesterday with Blake, and you know, I spent a good amount of time talking about my thoughts on everything. But I'll recap some of the stuff that has been happening on the internet and all that. And then later on, in the morning, I will be talking about my binge of the week. That is, this is a segment I'm doing every week on Wednesdays where I talk about a series, either a series or maybe sometimes two, depending on the week, that I binged throughout the week, and I want to give my final thoughts and review on it. So this week I will be talking about the Apple TV Plus. Is it Apple TV Plus or Apple Plus TV? Whatever. Apple show Monarch Legacy of Monsters that I finally finished watching over the weekend. The series or season finale, I don't know if they're going to be continuing on with this series, but the finale aired not last Friday, but the Friday before that, if I remember correctly. So it was like the perfect time for me to really catch up and just watch everything all straightforward. So I'll be sharing my thoughts and comments on all that stuff this morning. And of course, headline stuff. Because it's, you know, that's what I do here. Talk about the headlines. Let's see what's popping up on the Twix and what have you. So yeah. So once again, thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this live or on the replay, obviously, chat away at the comments. Let me know your thoughts on everything we're talking about. Let me know who you thought were snubbed yesterday, what big hot topic item you are interested in hearing more about. Let's have a conversation and let's talk about that. And if you're watching on the replay, obviously would love to hear your comments, feedback, all that stuff. And of course, if you enjoy this, don't forget, like, subscribe, all that good stuff here on the YouTube channels and what have you. Let's have some fun. Let's go. Yeah, I'm gonna come. All right, take it easy, buddy. All right, it's still early in the morning. All right, let's just get to it, shall we? So interesting thing, like I mentioned before, about streaming services, and if you've been following the landscape, you know the biggest thing that will really help solidify loyalty to subscribers when it comes to any streaming platform is variety, right? Obviously, you want to be able to have a good amount of movies to watch, movies that you're interested in watching, whether it's new or a decent backlog, right? Library, what have you. New shows, or at least some shows that people are interested in watching, whether it's something brand new or something that is old that they can rewatch over and over again. We've seen many success like that in The Office when it was on Netflix, and now it's on Peacock. So you know, it's stuff like that that really keeps people on your streaming service and your streaming platform. Documentaries, reality TV stuff, true crime stuff, all that stuff really makes a huge difference. If you have a section for kids, whether it's animation, live action, whatever the case is, that also helps people stick to your streaming platform. The one key ingredient that has not been fully realized yet is sports. When it comes to sports, the platform that can nail down a great partnership with any sports organization, league, whatever whatever they're aiming for, will definitely put them over the top. And in recent years, we've been seeing a lot of these streaming platforms try to solidify at least their sports portion of their streaming platform. If you go on Max today, you'll notice that there is a little section there about sports where you can watch basketball games. I believe they had like some hockey games too, or baseball or whatever. I think it's a partnership that they may have with Turner. I don't know exactly the details behind that stuff, but you could do that there. Amazon Prime, they have a lot of soccer you could watch there, international sports. But Peacock has their deals. Obviously, it's NBC, so the Olympics is huge. Soccer as well, or football, depending on what region you're watching from. And the WWE. The minute the WWE signed on with Peacock to be, at least here in the United States, their exclusive streaming platform service, that was huge, monumental, to the point where I honestly feel that it's the WWE that is keeping Peacock really above line at the moment. Because not only can you see clips, highlights, recaps from their shows every week, but they got all the live pay-per-views. You don't have to pay any additional money for it. If you are subscribed to Peacock, you get to see all the pay-per-views, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, all that stuff. And that's huge. That's a huge deal. And the wrestling fan base out there is massive. A good friend of mine for Christmas decided to take me to a live event at MSG. And, I haven't been to like a live wrestling event in a long time. Real quick, Robbie, I see your message in there, and I'm gonna get to that. I understand you want me to kind of watch and react to things, but at the end of the day, this is not that kind of show, really. But if I have time towards the end of it in the morning, I will do that. I do have it bookmarked, so if you want to stick around, we could definitely do that. But I appreciate you checking in back on that. So, and I haven't, as like the last time I've been to a live wrestling event was probably back in, I want to say like the 2000 era, like around mid 2000, like 2005, 2006, things like that. And I thought it would be funny, it's like, well, we talk about wrestling still. I watch occasionally the pay-per-views. I don't know exactly what's going on every week. The storylines, I have no clue usually what that is. He usually fills me in on all that stuff. And this was not like a taped event for it to be aired on any program. This was not like a live show. It was not your Raw or SmackDown. This was a house event for the holidays. So obviously there wouldn't be anything that would be too serious, really. So we went, and I was surprised how many people were at this event at Madison Square Garden. There were tons and tons of people. It was a sold out event, huge support and huge crowd. And that made me realize, wrestling still is a big thing today. It still draws a lot of attention and a lot of eyes. So it was a major surprise to me yesterday when the news broke and I saw the headline that Netflix struck a deal with WWE to be the streaming platform for their Raw, Monday Night Raw, which is their main headlining show every week. They have two. They have Raw and they have SmackDown. Arguably, Raw is the number one show of the week for theirs. Usually goes on 2 hours. I think sometimes it's 3, or maybe it is 3. I don't know. I haven't watched a live show, one of those programs, in a while. But yeah, in 2025 we will be seeing, and it's not just even replays. it's going to be live feeds on Netflix of Raw, WWE Raw. And then on top of that, internationally, it's going to be the home for WrestleMania and SmackDown. I don't know what that means for Peacock in the long run, but this was a huge deal that was announced, along with other stuff that happens within the WWE, like involving The Rock and all that. So let's quickly just talk about that, and let's read this article here from The Hollywood Reporter. I haven't read this yet. Again, these mornings is usually just me hanging out with my coffee, chilling, catching up on all the news, just like I would have done normally. It's just now I'm doing this online with all of you guys out there, and looking for conversations in regards to all this stuff. So here it says Netflix nabs WWE Raw rights in major $5 billion deal. Can you believe that? $5 billion. Beginning in 2025, the streaming giant will also become the international home for the WWE's full slate of live events, including WrestleMania and SmackDown. So the article continues saying here, in a major streaming deal, WWE Monday Night Raw will leave USA Network for Netflix beginning in January of 2025, with the streaming giant also set to become the home of WWE content outside of the US. The deal, which a source pegs at 10 years and is valued at about $5 billion, marks a significant expansion into live events for Netflix, which will now stream Raw live every Monday night in the US, Canada, UK, and Latin America, 52 weeks per year, with other territories to be added over time. That is huge. Think about that. Again, with the rabid fan base globally for wrestling and WWE, this is a big deal for Netflix, and I think this really puts them above a lot of other platforms that could garner loyalty just simply because of this. Netflix will also be the exclusive home of WWE content outside of the US, including its live shows and premium events like WrestleMania, as well as documentaries and original series. So if you're here in the US and you go on Peacock, the WWE has their own section in there. If you go in that section, you'll see you could watch all of the past pay-per-view events, going all the way back from the very beginning. You could watch their little programs that they create just for the streaming platform, whether it's like podcasts or documentaries, biographies. They have a lot of recap shows, highlight clip shows, obviously things that involve SmackDown and Raw and anything pay-per-view related, right? So it sounds to me like, at least for the international audience, they're taking that and just plopping that onto Netflix. Because Netflix has that broader range and that broader reach than a Peacock, right? What is that going to mean for Peacock? I think Peacock is still going to do okay here in the US, because it doesn't sound like US Netflix subscribers will have access to all that stuff, at least for now. Could this potentially mean that maybe there is a deal with Peacock and Netflix in the future? Who's to say? I mean, we know that there are streaming platforms possibly in conversations now to merge, like Max and Paramount, which is like a big kind of rumor happening right now. So that could be a possibility. So again, it's just these platforms are trying their best to get their major stake in the market to solidify themselves for success moving forward for multiple years to come. Makes a lot of sense to me. It's just this I was not expecting one bit at all. Thus far, Netflix had only held occasional live events like a Chris Rock stand-up comedy special or the ill-fated Love is Blind reunion special. That being said, Netflix has also been exploring sports-adjacent content. Netflix last year had Formula One drivers team up with PGA golfing stars in Netflix Golf Cup golf tournament, and next year we'll have tennis stars Rafael Nadal and Carlos Alcaraz face off in what it's calling the Netflix Slam. Now, that's interesting. I didn't even know about that. So for you tennis fans out there, that could be very interesting for you. However, WWE Raw is a big step. yes, I kind of covered that already. Um, this portion here talks about the WWE side. Big win for WWE and its owner TKO, which has been on the hunt for a TV or streaming partner for the program. TKO was formed last fall when Endeavor spun out UFC and merged it with WWE. The company also announced Tuesday that former WWE star Dwayne Johnson would be joining its board of directors. That was the other part of the big news that dropped yesterday, where now you have Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock himself, part of the board of directors for TKO, calling the shots and all that. So that is huge. And it's an interesting career move for The Rock, who I'm assuming because of this deal and joining the board of directors, they basically said, and they came to an agreement that, you know what, we really want you on this board. We want you to be helping us, with our businesses and all. What is it that you would like? And he just turned around to them, gave him the people's eyebrow and said, I want my name, son. And that's what they did. They basically gave him the rights to The Rock. So normally, any character, any personality that you formulate in the WWE, it belongs to the WWE. Vince was always adamant about that. That's why when you have people jump ship and they go to either WCW or they went to, like, nowadays they go to, what's the other one? All Elite, AEW or whatever. They cannot usually carry their own moniker. One great recent example of that is when Edge left WWE. Edge left WWE and went over to AEW, but he cannot bring the name Edge with him. So he goes under his actual name. I think it's like Adam Copeland or something like that. So this is huge. Obviously, Dwayne knew exactly what he was trying to do here. And he's like, if you want me part of the board, I want my name. And now he owns exclusive rights to his name, The Rock. Star-Lord 7, what's going on? How's it going? Happy Wednesday morning. Hope you're doing good. So that is a major, major deal. And it's funny, too, that he would do that, too, because there was a period of time, if you recall, when Dwayne was actually trying to get rid of the Rock moniker, especially when he was really trying his best to work on his movie career and become an actor. If you look at some of his credits in some movies, it only says Dwayne Johnson. It doesn't even mention The Rock. He was trying so hard to get away from that. So it's interesting that he chose to really fight to get the rights for that name, unless he just wants more control over the usage of it, which would make a lot of sense to me. So, for example, like if he signs a contract and the contract is because they want him to be The Rock, maybe he could make kind of exclusions or exceptions. Be like, you know what? We could do that, but I really want to be Dwayne Johnson, this and that, whatever the case is. It gives him just more total control of the monitor, The Rock, and all that. And it's for a business sense that I think that makes a lot of sense to me. Star Wars, I want him to bring back the Attitude Era. Well, again, I haven't been watching the shows weekly. I do watch the occasional pay-per-view and all that. With Triple H behind the creative, it does seem like they are slowly bringing aspects of the Attitude Era, but I don't think we will ever get that full-on Attitude Era from back then, because that was moment in time, lightning in a bottle moment. It just worked out. It worked out with the cultural landscape too at the time. Right now it's a little bit different, but you could see they're slowly bringing at least elements and aspects of it. Like I remember for the longest time they were refusing to show blood on TV, after they used to be showing it all the freaking time, every week during the Attitude Era, right? And if there was blood, they would immediately put it in black and white, or they'll try to pan away from it. But in recent shows that I've seen, they have not been shying away from that stuff. They've been kind of slowly allowing that stuff to be brought back. Not excessively. You don't see people blading themselves like they used to back in the day. But at least they're starting to show a little bit of that, right? So I think in time we're gonna get a good mix, which is I think more than we can ask for at the time, as long as the storylines and the matches are still compelling, right? And the characters are compelling. I think that really what makes it, work in the long run and all. So maybe with this deal with Netflix, they could maybe push the envelope a little bit further, because I think USA was a little bit more on the conservative side. And I think it was them who was kind of pushing WWE and Vince to tone that down a little bit because of advertising dollars, right? Now that it's Netflix money. They don't have to worry so much about advertising dollars too much anymore. So who knows? Maybe we can, see a little bit return to the good old days of wrestling. Star-Lord also mentions, I just want good promos. Hey, we all do. We all want the good promos. We all want the good, the good heel turns and the good, battles and confrontations. I mean, it'll be great just to see a lot of that stuff come back and really, really focused on. The article continues to say that this deal is transformative. Mark Shapiro, TKO president and COO. It marries the can't miss WWE product with Netflix's extraordinary global reach, and locks in significant and predictable economics for many years. Our partnership fundamentally alters and strengthens the media landscape, dramatically expands the reach of WWE, and brings weekly live appointment viewing to Netflix. I agree with all that. I mean, that is some huge stuff. Again, this is, I think those who are not paying too much attention to this, it could be downplaying a lot of this stuff, because in the long run, this is going to be major, major stuff. The downside, though, and there is a downside to all this, because of this deal, because of what Netflix is trying to do, this also unfortunately means that we're going to eventually have to pay for it somehow. Netflix has been one of the streaming platforms who've been very casually adjusting pricing tiers, introducing other tiers, fooling around with, pumping up the prices here, pumping up the prices there. And all the other platforms are slowly watching them, because they are using Netflix as the gold standard, right? If it works for Netflix, it may work for us, because they've been in the business longer than all of us, right? We already saw it. The minute they started messing around with pricing tiers or the ad tiers, we saw people like Max, Hulu, Paramount, Peacock, all starting to like fool around with that same concept, because they're like, hey, we got to figure out how we're going to make money, right? Then the password crackdown, right? Netflix started fooling around with that and releasing it, expanding it, all that stuff. Who followed suit? I think Max was one of them, right? I think slowly we're going to start seeing other platforms start slowly chipping away at that stuff once they could figure out the technology behind it all. So now with this deal, we're going to see more and more platforms looking to find a way to kind of compete, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a competition, right? This article continues to say, currently Raw runs on USA Network while SmackDown airs on Fox, and the WWE premium events like Royal Rumble and WrestleMania stream on Peacock. TKO has since cut new deals with USA, set to take over SmackDown beginning later this year, WWE NXT moving to the CW, and now Raw moving to Netflix. With Netflix taking over Raw, the show will leave linear TV for the first time in its 31 history. And that's big. Going back to what Star-Lord was alluding to, if we want to see stuff like from the Attitude Era, Raw would be the place for that. And for them to be able to try to test the waters with that stuff, they'd have to get away from TV. Because it's TV that is like kind of controlling them and restricting them, again, because of ad revenue. They have to be more family friendly and all that, because they want the top tier advertisers to advertise on their show so that everyone can make money. Now that they don't have to worry so much about that, Maybe, hey, let's push the envelope a little bit. You want to see a more mature wrestling night? Check out Raw on Netflix. You want something a little bit more family friendly? Go to SmackDown, right? On Fox. You want something that maybe speaks more to a younger generation and to see more up and coming things? Where's a better place for that than the CW, right? If this was still during the time of Dawson's Creek, could you imagine? It's like, you know, enjoy your Wednesdays with a new episode of Dawson's Creek, and then afterwards, NXT in your face. You know, it's like whoever's making the moves behind the scenes is really smart. And it's making a lot of sense because now you have every avenue depending on what you want from your wrestling. And again, I'm not a huge wrestling fan. I'm just a casual dude. But I'm thinking about this in the landscape of pop culture and media and entertainment. And it's a smart move. Again, you have your mature audiences now can watch stuff on Netflix. You have your, more family-oriented stuff that, the family can watch together, or you can watch with your parents who are into wrestling. You got your SmackDowns, which I always thought was the case too back in the day. I always thought the SmackDowns were a little bit more, not as raw, no pun intended, right? Yeah, I know that was bad. But still, yeah, you went to SmackDown for a specific reason, and then you go to Raw for other reasons, and then now you have NXT, which showcases the younger talent on the CW, which could possibly speak to a more younger generation there. Star-Lord here. I want to hear Vince say you're fired. Well, I don't know if we'll be seeing Vince a lot on TV these days. Maybe someone like Triple H can take on that moniker. I heard about the lawsuit Vince won before in court against Family Friendly. Yeah, remind me about that again in the chat. I don't think I'm that familiar with that. But if you have something to share, let me know. Because I don't think I'm so familiar with that. Okay. Now this goes on to talk about, okay, where does Peacock fall in on all of this? Peacock will remain the home of WWE premium events in the US for now. Through Netflix's deal certainly raises the question of whether it will be a bidder when the rights come up for renewal. Under the terms of the Netflix deal, the streaming giant will have the option to extend the agreement for another 10 years deal after the current agreement is up. Netflix will also have an option to exit the agreement after 5 years. So this is like just a little safety guard for Netflix. Like if in 5 years they notice that this stuff ain't working, then they could easily cut ties and all that. But if it is working, they have the option to renew after 10 years and all that. But mind you, they are spending a ton of money on this, right? So it all depends on how revenue is all going to play out. In its relatively short history, Netflix has engineered a phenomenal track record of storytelling, added Nick Khan, WWE's president. We believe Netflix, as one of the world's leading entertainment brands, is the ideal long-term home for Raw's live, loyal, and ever-growing fan base. Yeah, and then, so this article dropped like really right before the earnings announcement was done yesterday, and that's why this was such a big deal there. So a lot of interesting stuff there. Obviously, I think this is exciting in its own way, especially if you are a wrestling fan. I think this could mean a lot to you. As far as the business is concerned, this could be huge for Netflix. I'm telling you, look out for that. But at the same time, also look out for what's that going to mean for the consumer, because in the long run, we're going to end up having to pay for this somehow. And I believe it was during the call yesterday. And I'm going to just go through here because this was another. Here we go. So let's see. Netflix shares jumped on Wednesday after the streaming giant surprised Wall Street by reporting its second best quarterly subscriber additions ever, 13 million, and unveiling a 10-year, $5 billion deal with WWE, blah, 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 blah. So they already were able to show that. And remember, this is Netflix in 2023, during a time where they're cracking down on passwords, introducing new ad level tiers, and they were still able to increase their subscriber base. It's 13 million. You're not telling me Max, Disney Plus, Peacock, Paramount, they're not going to be looking at this and seeing how can we replicate this for ourselves, so that's huge. And again, they are like the headliner when it comes to all of these things. I think one of the things that also was announced yesterday during all this, let's see, just want to make sure I pay attention to the chat here. Star-Lord, thank you so much for chiming in. Love it. It was back in the Attitude Era. It's been a long time. Oh, okay. We can still watch highlights on YouTube, right? Yes, that should still be true, because WWE still maintains their own property. So the YouTube channel is run by WWE, so they should be able to still do all that. You'll notice that we could still see clips of SmackDown and Raw, despite them airing on other networks like USA, Fox. Fox channels also has their own clips, I've noticed. So I think when it comes to YouTube stuff, then that should still be okay and all that. So it's nothing I don't think we'll be losing any of that. And to be quite honest with you, I think it'll be stupid if they lost that, because I think that's what helps drive people to want to watch these things on the streaming platforms if they want to. Let's see. I just want to see, because the one thing I wanted to mention during this whole thing from yesterday was, here we go. This article says it is still early innings for the streamer's ad business. We think ad scale is Netflix's #1 priority, excluding its North Star of member satisfaction. Price increases, bundles, and eliminating the basic without ad tier are key drivers. Netflix's ad subs would hit 42 million in 2024 and 75 million in 2025, with ad revenue reaching 1.5 billion and 3.7 billion respectively, with ads likely not a stock catalyst until 25. So that is something to pay attention to, because the ad tier, which is what is that? The cheapest ad-free option, the basic plan, looks like they're going to be setting to retire that later this year. So think of gentrification. This is the only way I can do comparisons. When you see gentrification happen, when you get an older neighborhood kind of run down, and you get a lot of people working on it, rebuilding it, putting up co-ops, condos, and making it attractive for higher class, more wage earning folks to move in, and eventually move on out the folks who can no longer afford living in that neighborhood, right? So now they have to kind of move on to find a new place to go. So in a way, in the streaming platforms industry, getting rid of the basic tiers and the little tiers, you're forcing people now to move on up and pay more money for the service if they want to stick with you and all. And I know what a lot of people do is that they'll subscribe in pockets, right? So let's say, for example, this year, the last season of Stranger Things is coming out, right? I guarantee you, when that season drops on Netflix, you're going to see a huge bump in subscriber base, because a lot of people are going to re-sign to just watch that season entirely. The minute they're done with all that, cancel subscription, we're out, right? But there, of course, will be some of those who will forget. They'll stay on the service and they'll subscribe for months and months, or they'll be enticed to watch this show, that show. This is new. The new Squid Game season's coming out. Oh, I wanted to see that. Oh, it's only going to be like a week out, so let me just stay on the platform until that airs. And this and that. I still think it's a huge mistake for Netflix not to do a week-to-week release schedule with a lot of their shows, because it keeps people constantly wanting to watch it week to week. They can't binge it, so obviously they won't be able to watch, kind of watch and dump on their way out. Or they'll just eventually wait for all the episodes to be available and then they'll binge it. They'll subscribe and binge it at the time. But at that time, everyone's talking about it. People are spoiling it online and internet. And maybe if you want to stay away from all that, oh, maybe I should watch it week to week because I don't want anything spoiled for me and what have you. So boom, that's basically what's happening here. Star-Lord 7, knock at the door. This is WWE. Get the F out. Damn right. That's right. Bust through the door. Bam. With The Rock leading the way. Putting the smackdown on kids. So I look, at the end of the day, this is major news. And like I said, this is going to lead the way to increased curiosity as to how other streaming platforms are going to follow suit. What kind of deals could they get together and all that? Could we possibly, and I know this is such a lower tiered approach, but it could be very well possible that maybe we see AEW signing up with somebody, and I know like you're not comparing apples to apples at this point, but that could be a possibility. I won't be surprised if that's not something that people are thinking about right now. But I think people are more thinking long term, and maybe they're hoping to grab the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, the MLB, FIFA, whether it's the Champions Cup, the Euro Cup, whatever, any cup, cup my balls. They're looking to see what they can secure and grab there, right? So yeah. So I thought this was like a major piece of news yesterday that was kind of overshadowed because of the Oscar stuff, which I totally understand. And again, me too. Like I spent so much time with the Oscar stuff yesterday because that's my bread and butter. That's my thing. That's my jam. I put it on toast, spread that shit out, and I swallow it whole. That's what I love to do. So, but I think now that that's all said and done, I think this should be paid attention to because this is something that's going to be like really worth talking about for the week. All right. So that is Netflix and WWE there. Let's look to see what else is going on within the headlines and all that. One thing, this happens every year, and I never like to shit on movies that are terrible, even though it's fun to always talk about it and make fun of them. But when you think about it, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that work on these things, whether they're serious or not. So I try to avoid kind of, dedicating my time or so much time to shitting on a movie. Now, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to sugarcoat stuff. If I didn't like something, I'm going to say I didn't like it. I'm going to say why. I mean, if you've seen any of my movie reviews and you saw what I said about Rebel Moon, then you'll see exactly how I was very honest about that. And of course, I got some slack from it, but it is what it is. But every year we have the Razzie Awards, and every year these guys announce their nominees for worst movies of the year and all that. So it was announced yesterday, the Razzies, and who they're talking about and who they're looking at. So let's take a look. So the Razzie Awards, Expendables, and Expendables 4. See, they were trying to be clever there. Leads nominations. Exorcist, Believer, and Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey also nabbed multiple mentions. So let's read this. Expendables 4 leads the nominees for Golden Raspberry Awards, aka the Razzies, which were unveiled Monday morning. The film earned 7 nominations for the Razzie Awards, which honor the worst of the year and are announced annually ahead of Oscar noms announcement, which takes place Tuesday morning. Expendables is one of 5 movies competing for the worst picture of the year. The nominees in the category, along with the Razzies comments, are Exorcist Believer, which they say a 50 years later remake ripoff that was horrifying in unintended ways. There you go. Expendables 4, another installment of a franchise that's fading faster than Razzie winner Donald Trump's mental acuity.
I'm gonna come.
Meg 2, The Trench, a fishy tale about a snarky shark that flopped across all seven seas. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, one of 2023's several comic book movies failing to save the superhero genre. I unfortunately agree with that. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, a defamation and defecation on two of the most beloved kitty-lit characters, reimagining the huggable denizens of the 100-Acre Woods as vicious cannibal serial killers. Oh, Christopher, will you kill me? I'm gonna kill you.
I'm gonna come.
Among the acting contenders are former Oscar winners Jon Voight, Russell Crowe, and poor Helen Mirren, as well as Razzie repeat offenders Sylvester Stallone, Megan Fox, and Jennifer Lopez. Let's see here. Noms were selected in 9 categories by Razzie voters, comprising 1,100 movie buffs, film critics, and journalists from 49 U.S. states and 2 dozen foreign countries. The winners will be announced on March 9th. The night before the Oscars. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. That I may have to keep that in mind, because it may be interesting to kind of do like a live stream of the Razzie stuff leading into my live coverage of the Oscars. Starlord said, "Did you see the Oscars? The host needed an exorcism." Are you talking about the Golden Globes with Joe Coy, or which Oscars are you talking about? Because the Oscars didn't air yet, so or maybe this was last year. Let me know. After strikes, lingerings of a worldwide plague, blah blah blah. Okay, so I no need to further go on in this article, but we have the categories here. All right, let's just do that. I love checking that out. Starlord, or yeah, that one. Yeah. See, so my stance on the Golden Globes is that I feel like they're a bullshit organization, so I don't even bother with them. You could tell the people who go there don't care either. They're just use that as an excuse to hang out, get drunk, get fed, and just chill out with each other. But yeah, that show is always usually a hot mess. So I'm not surprised what happened, but I also feel like Joe Coy was just not, he didn't do the right thing, for sure. Whether he had enough time to prepare or what have you, it was just a hot mess all around. So worst picture, we just went over that. Worst actor, Russell Crowe for The Pope's Exorcist, which I heard was awful. Vin Diesel for Fast X. I mean, it is what it is. Chris Evans for Ghosted. Jason Statham for Meg 2, The Trench. And Jon Voight for Mercy. Worst actress goes to Ana de Armas for Ghosted. So you got Ghosted. You got the 1-2 punch there. Megan Fox for Johnny and Clyde. Salma Hayek for Magic Mike's Last Dance. Jennifer Lopez for The Mother. And Dame Helen Mirren for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Oh, poor Helen Mirren. I didn't think she was that bad in that film. I mean, it is what it is. Worst supporting actress, Kim Cattrall for About My Father. Megan Fox for Expendables 4. Bai Ling for Johnny and Clyde. What is Johnny and Clyde? I've never even heard of that movie. Lucy Liu for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Now, okay, don't be talking about my Lucy Liu like that. All right, she's a Queens girl just like I am. Huge fan and supporter of her. She once filmed Elementary in my neighborhood. I never saw her, but I missed my chance to make her my future ex-wife. That being said, she was bad in that movie, but I don't think it was her fault. And then Mary Stuart Masterson for Five Nights at Freddy's. Really? I don't necessarily agree with that. Five Nights at Freddy's was okay. That wasn't a terrible movie at all. Starlord said, I can't talk anyways. LOL. Worst supporting actor, Michael Douglas for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Mel Gibson for Confidential Informant. Bill Murray for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Franco Nero as the Pope in The Pope's Exorcist. And Sylvester Stallone for Expendables 4. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is getting too much of a bad rap. It wasn't a terrible movie, but it wasn't great either. But worst screen couple, Any two merciless mercenaries, Expendables, any two money grubbing investors who donated to the $400 million of the remake rights to The Exorcist. All right, that was good. Ana de Armas and Chris Evans, who flunked screen chemistry for Ghosted. Salma Hayek and Channing Tatum from Magic Mike's Last Dance. And Pooh and Piglet as bloodthirsty slasher killers. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. But, okay, I didn't get to see Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. But it wasn't them, right? From what I could tell, it was people in masks acting like them. So, I don't know. I'm still kind of curious about that movie. Worst prequel, remake, ripoff, or sequel? Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, The Exorcist, Believer, Expendables, Indiana Jones, and the Dial of Still Beating a Dead Horse. And Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey there. I have a feeling Exorcist is going to be a huge winner for the Razzies this year. Worst director goes to Reese Frake Waterfield for Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Look, you could make fun of this guy and people involved in that movie all you want. You know how much money they made for that? Let's take a look. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey budget. All right, first of all, let's look at the budget. So Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, according to, let's see here. So $100,000. Put that into your head for a minute. $100,000 budget for a movie that was released theatrically. Most budgets we hear for any movies releasing theatrically is like 10 million. Maybe that's like the lowest you'll hear, right? $100,000? Now let's see how much it made. Oops, I can't spell. Searching. I think I broke the website's main membranes. Because it's like, why are you looking for this? Here we go. Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh. Okay, look at this. Out of $100,000, this fucking movie made $5.2 million.
Yeah! I'm gonna come.
Razz him all you want. Homeboy made his dough. He made his bag, and he is singing the praises of it all. And he's like, damn right, I'll do a sequel. So razz on him all you want. He's walking home, wallet fully stacked, chomping on that caviar. Let's go. Good for him. All right. David Gordon Green for The Exorcist Believer, Peyton Reed for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Scott Wall for Expendables, and Ben Wheatley for Meg to the Trench. This bodes worse for The Exorcist because they were really hoping that was going to be a kickoff to a brand new kind of a realm of this franchise, and it just didn't work. Quickly, Star-Lord said, Children of the Corn reboot. That was, you know what? I really was curious about that, but I hesitated and I stopped. And maybe I'm glad that I did, because I still remember the very first time I watched the very first Children of the Corn when I was a wee young little idiot. And that scared the living shit out of me. I was expecting kids to be looking at me through the windows, kidnapping me, doing whatever. That movie was frightening. You watch it now, it's so stupid, right? But as a kid who doesn't know any better, that movie was terrifying. So I always thought that was a storyline that could do well if done right today. So I don't know. I don't know what happened with that reboot. I don't know if I'll ever check it out, but it is what it is. Worst screenplay. Oh, what's going on, Lindsay Lohan? The Oh no, I didn't. Wait, go back. I didn't click on you. Exorcist Believer, Expendables, Indiana Jones, and the dialogue, "Can I go home now?" Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. You know, it's funny. It's interesting that they're going so hard on Shazam and Ant-Man. What happened to The Flash? I'm surprised you're not touching The Flash at all. You know, a lot of people were razzing on The Flash when that movie came out. I enjoyed it, you know, because I didn't take it too seriously. I knew the DCU was on its way out, you know, so I was just enjoying for what I got. Blue Beetle, decent movie. It was a nice little throwback to like 90s type action superhero films. I liked it. But why are they razzing so much on Shazam? I mean, granted, it's not a good one, but it wasn't the worst. Same with Ant-Man. Wasn't the worst. So yeah, so that's interesting. I find all of that stuff fascinating. So the Razzies. Stay tuned to the channel the night before the real Oscars, and I may be doing a live stream covering this stuff because it's still funny and hilarious when you look at it all. Okay, let us see. So let's talk about the Oscars real quick, because this one kind of caught my eye here. Now, as the nominations were revealed, of course, me and my buddy Blake, who hosts a Movie Time podcast, check us out on your podcast platform of choice if you want to hear two guys talking about movies, new movies, old movies. We did a whole thing predicting our nominations or who we'd like to see nominated. And then we'll be recording our kind of overall thoughts and reactions to it all if you didn't see our live stream from yesterday. So check that out. Star Wars 7, they better do something with George Clooney after that cameo. They're not. I think he even said so as much. He's like, you know what? I did this as a favor. You couldn't pay me enough to come back as the Batman or Bruce Wayne. It was amazing to see. And I don't know if you knew, they actually recorded multiple different scenes for that ending. I think one of them did have Ben Affleck in there. And I think another one had Michael Keaton showing up at the end. And what they did is that when they were test screening it, they rotated the endings based off of what kind of test screening they were doing, just to see what hit harder, what got the better reaction. Because I remember hearing some people who saw screenings, and they were saying, and they weren't spoiling it, to their credit, they weren't spoiling anything, but they were saying that, wait a minute, I think I saw a different ending than you did. And they would talk off camera and all that. And like, wow, okay, so they're really doing it like that. So interesting stuff. I liked what they chose. I love seeing Clooney in that role, even if it's just like a little wink to the folks, especially with everything that we saw prior to that, with the whole multi-universes. We got to finally see our Nick Cage Superman, fighting the crazy giant spider robot, and we got to see the Adam West Batman there, Christopher Reeve and Supergirl and all that goodness, so it was a nice little, like, this is an homage to you watching the DC universe for all the years we've been doing movies. But strap in, because all that is going out the window, and we're going to do something completely different in 2025. So, and I'm all for it. I'm in for the ride. I love James Gunn. I love his stuff. I think he's brilliant mind. He's a brilliant mind. He's a good creator. Let's see what he has cooking. All right. So obviously, when the nominations were announced yesterday, a lot of surprises. And definitely, depending on how you look at things, there were a good amount of snubs, right? Biggest snub, I think, of the entire awards nominations announcement going into this year's Oscars is Greta Gerwig for director for Barbie. I am 50-50 on the whole Margot Robbie being nominated for Best Actress, only because I did not think she was the strongest part in that movie. I spoke to so many people who watched that movie, and when they came out, they all said the same thing. I was not expecting to like Ryan Gosling as much as I did. So he totally deserved his nomination. Everyone said Margot was great and she's gorgeous and she's beautiful, and I agree. But as far as acting in that movie is concerned, I don't think she was the strongest. That being said, that movie would not have been possible if it wasn't for Greta Gerwig, and the fact that she was not nominated for director was a huge snub, and I think a misstep in the whole tradition of Oscar nominees. Michael Keaton moved on to Beetlejuice. Yes, which is something I am very curious about this year. I don't know if it'll be good, but it'll be very interesting to see, especially after all these years, 35 years or so? Whew, that's going to be interesting. So with all that said, obviously the internet went abuzz. People were screaming at the top of their lungs, huge backlash all around. People were speaking up. It was a surprise that America Ferrera was nominated for supporting actress. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that. But Ryan Gosling took to the internet and made a statement about what happened. And basically his statement says, I am extremely honored to be nominated by my colleagues alongside such remarkable artists in a year of so many great films. And I never thought I'd be saying this, but I'm also incredibly honored and proud that it's for portraying a plastic doll named Ken. But there is no Ken without Barbie, and there's no Barbie movie without Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie, the two people most responsible for this history-making, globally celebrated film. No recognition would be possible for anyone in the film without their talent, grit, and genius. To say that I'm disappointed that they are not nominated in their respective categories would be an understatement. Against all odds, with nothing but a couple of soulless, scantily clad, and thankfully crotchless dolls, they made us laugh, they broke our hearts, they pushed the culture, and they made history. Their work should be recognized along with the other very deserving nominees. Having said that, I am so happy for America Ferrera and the other incredible artists who contributed to their talents, making this such a groundbreaking film. So, what do I have to say about this? I think it's great that he spoke up. I also feel like he had to, in solidarity of his Barbie fam. If he didn't say anything, obviously that would look weird. But I also do agree. I think it was a missed opportunity and a misstep to not recognize Greta Gerwig in directing. And like I said, I've already said my thoughts about Margot Robbie there. So yeah, in my opinion, I also feel it was another misstep that Celine Song was not nominated for directing. Past Lives wasn't a phenomenal film, one of my best movies of last year. There were just a lot of weird things that happened in the announcements. Not all bad, but I think it just still brings us back to the thought and the mindset of the Academy is still not there when it comes to how the rest of the field looks at these movies. They're still in their own little pocket. And it's interesting, and I wonder, when are we going to crack that? When are we going to get to see at least more cohesiveness when it comes to the movie-going audience, the cinephiles, and the Academy? You know, because we've seen a lot of momentum, Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, SAG, all of these things happening, that we were expecting to see certain things. And then the Academy was just like, oh yeah? F you, we're going to do it our way. And I know they've been trying so hard to change up the voting body. They have a new president that started last year or 2 years ago. It takes time to change, you know? So, I mean, they've made certain steps in the right direction, but there's still some things that need to be done here. So, and again, I'm not going to go too much into this because, like I said, I reacted a lot yesterday. If If you want to go back and watch that, you can do so. And then, Blake and I will be sitting down and really, really letting this kind of marinate in our heads so that we could sit down and talk about, okay, how is this going to affect everything moving forward and what we're going to be expecting for the awards this year. Things change. You're right. Things do. Can't wait to hear him say, it's showtime. Love that movie. Loved it. I saw that movie. I saw Beetlejuice in the theaters, not knowing what to expect, right? And I'm trying to think, why did I see it? What drew my attention? I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was Winona Ryder already in Edward Scissorhands prior to this, or was this after? Or did she do that movie after? I don't know. My timeline right now but I think Winona Ryder was a huge draw for me. As a younger kid, Winona, was kind of like a crush for me. So I was like, I'm going to see her in this movie. But it also looked kind of quirky and kind of like unique. And I remember watching that movie. I was just like, my God, this movie is fantastic. Oh, and of course, Gina Davis. Gina Davis was in there too. And she was a well-known actress at that time, especially during this period. Along with a very, very young, whatchamacallit, Baldwin. The Baldwin guy. Baldwin. Did I just call him Baldwin? Who unfortunately is facing some unfortunate charges when it comes to that misfire of the weapon there, which is still a sad story. Star-Lord, you were very young. I'm afraid to ask, but I'm going to anyway. How old were you when Beetlejuice came out? And I know I'm going to feel terrible about it, but I'm putting myself in this position. So by all means, please let me know. All right. So I mean, again, there's a lot of talk back and forth about the Oscars and all that, but there'll be a time and place to talk more about that as the week continues. Let's see. Let us see what other stuff kind of hit the headlines there that will be interesting to kind of just talk about and catch up on. Yeah, see, this one talks about Netflix scrapping the basic ad-free tier. Get ready, folks. That's basically what's going to happen there. That is, forcing people to pay more. That's the name of the game. And, the landscape is becoming more and more like cable television. So it was bound to happen. I'm an 80s baby, 90s kid. Okay, so you were born like in the 80s. Your main memories of growing up is solidified in the 90s. So I'm sure you are more of a fan of, I want to say, like the Nickelodeon stuff, SpongeBob, Rugrats, those kind of shows at the time, because that was after me. Because I was an 80s kid. I was born late 70s. So I grew up with Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, but I was aware of all that stuff that came out in the 90s because I'm just a fan of like animation, right? So I know Fairly Odd Parents, I know Rugrats, I know SpongeBob. I watched SpongeBob because I thought that thing was so freaking hilarious for me. Best scene and best moment in SpongeBob to this day is when SpongeBob is lounging in his chair watching TV. And he's like getting really into it. And it's just like whatever. It's like this like weird sea creature just dancing back and forth with the funny music. And he's like really getting into it. And he gets so intense. And then freaking the snail comes in, Gary comes in and he freaks out. It's like, Gary! And he changes the channel, turns off the TV right away. So for an adult, it's kind of like, oh, he just got caught watching porn. It's just, for me, that moment was just so freaking hilarious. And to this day, it sticks in my head as one of the best scenes I've seen on that show. Really, really funny stuff. Let's see here. Squid Game Season 2 will be airing this year, so that's something to look forward to. Pal World sells millions. The little Pokemon with guns that Nintendo is slowly getting upset about. Let's see. Obviously, if you want to see my reaction to Avatar: The Last Airbender, the trailer that dropped yesterday, it's on the channel. I am definitely looking forward to that series when it comes out, even though I've never seen the original cartoon. But I have always wanted to see it. 90s is so close to 80s. I grew up on those movies too. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a good bridge between 80s and 90s. I feel like obviously with the later generations, that gap grew a little bit, but I do feel like now there are a lot of people who do end up watching a lot of the 80s and 90s stuff, and I think that's mainly because of the parents. Because we're all raising kids now. I'm not, but my friends are. Gary tossing off sounds like weird science. Yes, yes. So funny. This is SpongeBob, man. I remember I was talking to a friend of mine about SpongeBob around that time, and he has kids. And I was like, are your kids watching SpongeBob? Because it's so funny. And he got so serious all of a sudden. He's like, nah, man. It's like, I don't let my kids watch trash like that. I'm like, dude, relax. It's just a kid's show. It's supposed to be stupid. And he's like, no, it makes no sense. I only let my kids watch stuff that makes sense. I'm like, all right, you've lost the plot. You're just like, okay, whatever. I'll never forget that conversation. That was really, really funny. Let's see here. We're gonna get a new Jurassic World movie. No big surprise there. I mean, come on. I feel like that was expected. So Universal Pictures has reportedly hired original Jurassic Park scribe David Koepp. Is it Koepp? Kip? To pen the script for an all-new Jurassic World film. A Hollywood Reporter broke the news saying the project is already deep into the development stage and a script is in enough of a well-liked shape that the studio could be aiming to go into production as early as this year for a 2025 release. Wow, that's going to be fast turnaround. Man. At present, there is no director on board, but veteran producers Frank Marshall and Patrick Crowley are back producing, and Steven Spielberg will executive produce, meaning he is going to give you some of the money to work on it. What form of film will take is unclear, but is said to be a new era with an all-new storyline, thus not involving either Jurassic World leads, Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, or returning Jurassic Park stars like Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum. It is using the Jurassic World title, though suggesting this isn't a reboot and will continue beyond the events of Jurassic World Dominion 2 years ago. All right. Here are my thoughts on this whole thing. And mind you, I love Jurassic Park and I love the franchise. Oh, I didn't know I was using this other screen. Oh, well. Anyway, doesn't matter. The movies haven't been that great lately. They've been okay. I thought it was interesting, the last one where they brought back Sam Neill, Laura Dern, I'm forgetting the other guy's name because obviously this coffee's not working yet, guys. But I thought it was really interesting when they brought back the old guard to kind of team up with the new guard to do their thing. It wasn't a great movie, but at least I was entertained for the nostalgic factor of it all. But once that movie ended, I said to myself, I don't want to see this anymore. Where can you go from here? Now, if you compare it to the animated kids show that we got on Netflix, I was like, oh, I kind of like what they're doing with that. Because I did watch that first season and I thought it was very entertaining. Why don't they spin off something like that? Are we still going to go off on the whole, the dinosaurs are roaming around just like every other animal? Are we going to be doing that still? Are we going to go far into the future and maybe turn this into dino saucers? Are we going to start putting lasers on dinosaurs and armor and start, riding them into battle? Let's do that. Let's go. I want to see dino riders, dino saucers, all that stuff. Let's combine those properties, put them all together. Jurassic World presents Dino Wars. I'm sure it will really jump the shark at that point. But I'm all in for it. Why not? Let's make it campy. Chris Pratt fighting dinosaurs inspired the Mario movie. I bet anything it wasn't no damn wishing well. True that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious as to what kind of concept or premise they're going to be coming up with this. But in my opinion, I feel like it's kind of run its course. Maybe give it more of a time to have a separation so that you could come up with something a little bit more unique. But I don't know. Again, it's the more and more I do coverage like this, the more and more I involve myself in this industry, the more I'm realizing, and of course it's always been there, that it's just a money-making machine. And studios make movies to make money, not always necessary to tell stories. That's why I love A24, because they want to tell stories and they encourage their creators to tell stories. Just like video games. Unfortunately, a lot of these studios make games to make money. It's a money-making machine. That's why I appreciate the developers behind Baldur's Gate 3, because they took their time to try to create a game that, will not only be well received by the fan base of D&D, but also entice other gamers as well. And they refuse to go on any Game Pass service or whatever. They're doing this all on their own. So I totally respect that, and I love them for that. So at the end of the day, it's like, are any movies necessary? Not always, but we still need our forms of entertainment, right? So that's what it is. As far as entertainment is concerned, I think it's time. Let's talk about the binge of the week. All right. This is a segment where I talk about the latest series that I've binged the last week. And this week, I'll be talking about Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. Again, you've known me. If you've seen me, you've seen my videos, you hung out with me, you've been following me for some time. I am always and have always been a very casual Godzilla fan. I remember watching Godzilla when I was a little kid and loving it, grew up with it. And when it comes to the American productions, I don't mind the recent run of Godzilla films. It started off with 2016 Godzilla, then we got Kong Skull Island, I think, and then we got Godzilla King of Monsters, and then we got Kong versus Godzilla, and then now we're going to be getting Kong X Godzilla as they do the team up of the century to fight evil and all that. So I think everything up to Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong, I don't know which side one belongs in on. I thought the movie series were actually interesting. And then it kind of went a weird direction, a little bit too supernatural for me and all. So when I heard that they were doing a series about Monarch, the company behind the whole monitoring of these monsters, tracking these monsters, trying to, I guess, not necessarily destroy them, but contain them. I was like, oh, that could be interesting. So it's something I want to check out for sure. And I heard some people watching it and they were like, oh, I kind of like this. I'm like, okay, I'll check it out. I'll wait for all the episodes to be done so that I can get in and binge it in one shot and I don't have to wait week to week for it. That was just my thing, what I wanted to do myself. So I did that. It's an interesting premise. So the idea, and if you haven't seen the show and you don't want it to be spoiled, obviously this may not be a perfect time for you. But I'm just going to go through it all. So take it for what it is. But the concept of the show talks about the creation of Monarch, and how it spans from certain generations, like how it started and where it is, quote unquote, now, right? And it involves this one main family in two main periods of time. So we're dealing with a time that was the original conception of Godzilla around that time. So we're talking about like 50s, 60s era, right? Which is before the events of Kong Skull Island, when we're talking about the movies, right? So we see kind of the formation of Monarch during that time. And then we also see, fast forward, the events of everything that happened a year after the original Godzilla film that came out in 2016. Not the original Godzilla, but the Americanized current Godzilla slate that we have now, 2016's Godzilla. So we see the aftermath there and how it affects this one main family that we're following throughout the whole series. Let me bring up some information here just so I can call them out. We have the actress Anna Sawai, who plays Kate. She is by far the main character of this series. She's the one that we were kind of like following the events through, point of view wise. The secondary person alongside with her would be arguably Wyatt Russell's character, who plays this guy named Lee Shaw. Plus, I have to say, I love the fact that they got Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell to play younger and older versions of this character. I mean, that is brilliant casting right there. And it worked. For me, it totally worked because Wyatt, if given the right makeup, the right look, he looks just like his dad. Even has the same speech mannerisms and all that stuff. So the whole idea here is Kate's father has gone missing, right? So he's presumed dead because a plane that he was taking over to Alaska disappeared and all this stuff. So she took a trip back to Japan, Tokyo, where he had a home, where he would spend some of his time there because of his work and some of the time in San Francisco with her and her mom and what have you. And then the big reveal at the very early beginning of the show is like, uh-oh, he has another family, right? So it's like, oops. So it's like a big reveal and a big like, oh, I can't believe my dad would do this and da-da-da, this and that. And then it kind of spawns off into this whole revelation of this guy is leading a life that we had no knowledge about and is really fascinating. We have to figure it out. Then we go back in the past. So we time jump, right? Or we fall back in time. We're not jumping, we're falling back in time. And we go back to the early days before Monarch is starting, and we see, this Japanese lady who's a scientist. Later on, we find out that this is her grandmother. So we learn very early on that, okay, we're following the lineage of this family who also is responsible for the lineage of Monarch. So I was like, okay, I like the premise. I like where they're going with this. And basically, it's just a journey of the conception of Monarch. How are they tracking these monsters? What were they doing back in the day that made them so involved and invested? What kind of research were they doing to ensure that they could monitor these monsters and prevent them from attacking big cities, especially with what happened in San Francisco in the 2016 movie? How can they prevent that from happening in the future? All that good stuff. And for the most part, this series was entertaining. However, there are a lot of tone switches and changes that happen that I questioned. And it kind of halfway through it, it threw me off a little bit. And a lot of it has to do with a lot of these character choices. I'll say this, I preferred following the storylines of the older characters, meaning back in the day, than I did with the younger characters. You had your Wyatt Russell, right? I'm going to pull up the cast right here just so I can give them proper shout outs, right? You had Wyatt Russells with the younger Lee Shaw. You had this guy, Bill Randa, played by Anders Holm. And then you had the grandmother, played by actress. Well, she's there. I want to shout her out, but this thing's not giving me the right information here. Oh, maybe Wikipedia will have it. Let's see here. Oh, Kiersey Clements, who plays May, who is the grandmother. I enjoyed following that storyline and those characters so much more than I did with the younger generation, because it got to a point where it became like a Scooby-Doo mystery thing with them. And there was a lot of like, you had the brother, because his other family in Japan, he had a son. So you had the brother who was really against the whole thing with the sister and is like angry and he's angsty. You had the daughter that was confused and very depressed because she was part of the events that happened in San Francisco. So she was going through a lot of trauma. Then all of a sudden she tried to become like this aggressive, no nonsense type of person, which it felt like a leap in personality change for me. You had this very, and I don't want to be, I don't want to be dismissive of this actress's abilities, but you had basically who I called the lower tiered mix of Lisa Bonet and Tessa Thompson. She had just that very typical look that I felt like they were trying to cast that type of look for that role. And she is like your hacker, and she's involved in things and all that. And then she had her own like mystery and side mission going on that kind of put the team at risk and danger as they were trying to work with this group. But then this person spawned away from this group and then became this other operative thing here. And they're really trying to go with Monarch and blah, 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 all this stuff. It became very convoluted. But if you follow the original group, that took place back in the day, it was very easy to follow. I thought it was very, very touching, that little love triangle they had going on, where Lee Shaw's character was really in love with May, but, it didn't work out. And then because she's a scientist and, the other guy is a scientist, and they just had better minds and had better chemistry and they were in the forefront, they ended up together. But you feel like Lee always had that kind of, what could have been, if I did this right, or if I paid attention to this and and that. I kind of love that storyline. That storyline was really, really well done and thought out. You fast forward, we do get Kurt Russell's version of Lee, who is kind of like curmudgeon, kind of shunned from the community. But then the minute he gets an opportunity, all of a sudden he kicks it into the gear, and he's just like, oh, now I'm going to have my plan here to go back and see what's going on in this like other universe. Because then it is revealed, the revelation that we got in Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, the whole alternate dimension universe underneath the earth, we get kind of the origins of that in this show, which was very interesting, the way they kind of played it all out. By the way, Starlord, I saw your message here. Missed opportunity not to have him make Kurt Russell reboots. I completely agree with that. I think Wyatt Russell would be fantastic if they decide to do, like, I don't know, Escape from New York, but something else, right? or a kind of maybe like a prequel to The Thing, or a Thing follow up, right, or something like that. It'll be really, or what's that other one? Geez, more coffee, Renee, more coffee. Thank you. The kung fu one, the Big Trouble in Little China. There we go. You know, something, a follow up from that, because that movie was just precious in my mind. But anyway, so yeah, so the minute this character was able to break free and team up with these kids, everyone was using somebody to do something, right? So it's like, I'll do this, I'll do you a favor, you do this for me, I'll do this for you. And everyone had their own secret agenda. Kate's agenda was just basically trying to find their dad, because now it's rumored that he's still alive, and kind of come up and find out, why was the dad lying to us? The son, her brother, same situation. The son had like a love affair with lower tiered Lisa Bonet, but she's like, I'm not this person you think I am. I'm running away from this. I have a past, and I'm going to be nothing to you. And da 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 da. And then May, all of a sudden, you know, latched on to her. And I think there was a love triangle happening here too, if you really think about it, because later on we found out that May is, you know, is gay, and she had you know, a partner, you know, in another teacher, that they were separated during the events of San Francisco. So she has that trauma from all that. So she has trust issues and this and that, and people not being truthful, and then she wasn't truthful because she was cheating on this partner, and you know? So I feel like in the past we had this love triangle going on, and then in the future we had this love triangle going on, and it was just an interesting thing and all. But we get introduced to this underworld dimension, alternate dimension, and there's a way to go in and out, right? Because in the past it was done, you know, but unfortunately May was thought to be dead. The other dude, the other scientist, you know, kept going, trying to find his way back there. We see in the beginning of the show, played by John Goodman, that was him, older version. He was on Skull Island during either prior to the events of Kong Skull Island or along the same time, you know, learning secrets and learning that. He typed a video of himself saying, you know, if you're watching this, I'm dead, and blah, 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 all that. So he continued to try to work and do this stuff. And then Lee just lived a life of just like, you know, solitude, and like he was kind of imprisoned for subordination, all this kind of stuff. And then the minute he was able to break free and break a deal, his whole thing was, I'm going to go back to that underground because I was able to go there before, and I was able to make my way back. And there's still unsolved things happening, and I need to figure out what's going on there. So then, as we go through this and all of this stuff is being revealed, now the mission is, and mind you, they did find the father with this device, and then Godzilla shows up. Let's put this out of the way. Godzilla shows up maybe 10 minutes during this whole series. So obviously it's not a Godzilla show. It's a show about the people, the corporation, those involved around the whole monster phenomenon. Right. So if you're going into this show thinking that you're going to see a monster like series, it really is not that. And that's not a bad thing, because I think one of the things that I find interesting is when they really focus and pay attention to the human element of it all. And it was very, very fascinating how they were trying to do that with this one, because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, a lot of like the science behind it. Basically, at the end of the day, the takeaways from this and what we learn is that the monsters are originating from this alternate dimension underneath the Earth's surface. because of some glitches in science or whatever, they accidentally find their way out into our plane of existence. Monarch is trying to focus and concentrate in containing that from happening. At the same time, sorry, little nugget buddy, I'm getting like really excited. Sorry. At the same time, you have Godzilla, who is trying to maintain things on his dimension to prevent those creatures from escaping in the first place. And when he does end up in our plane of existence, he's just trying to find his way back. And if there's a loose monster around, he's just trying to say, hey, you don't belong here. Let's go. Come with me. So you have Godzilla policing things on his side, and we have Monarch policing things on our end. And of course, Monarch is competing with the government. And, you have like this group wants to kill the monsters. This group wants to study them. So of course, you have that very typical stuff happening, right? So our folks that we've been following through this series ends up going into this alternate dimension. And I called it. I said, I bet you this is what's going to happen. And it happened. May is still alive. So they go down there, and there's that reunion, or a reunion we never thought would ever happen, where you see the younger generation of this family, or the youngest form of this generation of the family in May, seeing her grandmother, the older generation, and they have a family reunion. Mind you, May has not aged a bit, because since it's another dimension, time, because of the gravity, acts very slow and very differently. In her mind, she's only been there for like 40 days. In reality, it's been, 30 years, 40 years? So, of course, you have that reunion between Lee, Kurt Russell, and May, which was also very touching. This series had a lot of decent emotional moments, and I thought it was like very fascinating. So when you finally had that reunion between Lee and May, it was just like, oh man, how sweet is that? But he feels bad because he's all old now, and May still looks the way she is. May feels terrible because she didn't realize that she's missed 30 years. She already had her son, so she missed him growing up. All that. And then now it becomes a race to try to get the hell out of there. Get the hell out of there, and also close this portal that constantly keeps opening, that's allowing these monsters to escape in and out. And you have Godzilla, who's just saying, I'm trying to help. Right? So basically the show ends, or at least this season ends, with May, the kids, fake Lisa Bonet, everyone escaping back into the real world. Kurt Russell's Lee sacrifices himself to make sure that these guys escape. So we have that very typical, like, no, Lee, don't. It's like, I'm okay. I have lived my life. I got to see you one last time. This is my last duty, just to make sure you guys can get out of here. Goodbye, Ma. And we have the no, Lee. Very dramatic moment. And then when it's all said and done, we're back in the real world. We finally have that reunion of mother and son. And they're able to like see each other. So all generations of this family are finally back together. Monarch is in Monarch. I keep calling it Monarch. It's Monarch. But you know what? I'm going to call it the way I want. I say Heron. Blake makes fun of me. Fuck it.
I'm going to come.
So everyone is reunited. Monarch is strong, is intact. Everyone's helping each other out. And then boom. New threat. Because of the time difference, when they got back into reality, they missed like several months. Not as much as May did, but still, it was like several months. Now there's a new threat. And of course, it's Kong himself. Good old Kong showing up. I'm angry. And that's it. That's the series. In a nutshell. I thought it was entertaining. I did. It was interesting to learn kind of the lore that they've created for themselves. Now, it should be noted that the people involved in this series, you had Chris Black and Matt Fraction. Matt Fraction, that is a name you should pay attention to because this person was an Eisner Award-winning comic book writer. He's done work with Iron Man in the comic book world. Iron Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men, Hawkeye, all this stuff. Very, very well-known writer. Yeah, and I've noticed that he's slowly transitioning into, movies, TV, and I think he's a good writer. Several episodes, including the first episode, was directed by hold on, I have the name here. Matt Shackman. That's it. Matt Shackman also produced and directed WandaVision. And he's also done Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Fargo, Game of Thrones. So his episodes definitely were great. Hey, Star-Lord, no worries, man. Do what you got to do. Always appreciate you here. So it was being, helmed and written and directed by very good creative people, and I really appreciate for that. It felt like watching an amazingly produced show. The budget was definitely there, totally there. But there were some moments where it was like very cheesy and corny, and it fell into that whole, television stereotype. All right, Star-Lord, you do too. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. So, give you an applause. Thank you for joining. Have a great day. It's just there were just those character moments that really kind of threw me off sometimes. Again, with the character of the main character there, Kate, her kind of change in attitude threw me off. Because she was like very depressed, very melancholic, very confused, lost soul type of character, and then all of a sudden she's the one that's like trying to riff with everybody, and she all of a sudden has this attitude. It's like, yeah, you better not fuck with me, kind of thing like that. I was like, where the fuck did this come from? Like, I don't think it was earned, or the transition was done yet. Kentaro was played by actor Ren Watabe. I thought it was okay, but I felt like he wasn't that strong of an actor too. Definitely fell in the whole television type of, blahness. But yeah, Wyatt Russell and Kurt Russell were the breakouts for me. And the actress who played May, she was very good. Very, very good. I want to make sure I have the actress's name here. I just had it, didn't I? Wait, am I talking about the right person this whole time? Wait, May is the Lisa Bonet character. What the hell's wrong with me? Yeah, May is... Bleh. It's Keiko. Renee, you're drunk. So take back everything I said about May. It's Keiko. Replace it with Keiko. Keiko was the one that is the grandmother from back in the time who I really liked. And she was played by Mari Yamamoto. Very, very good actress. Really liked it. May is the Lisa Bonet like character, who I didn't really like so much. So yeah, sorry about that. You know, when it comes to names with these shows, like I always can't seem to follow sometimes. I always get lost. Yeah. And it doesn't help that you binge it too, because when you binge it, you're just going through episode and episode, and sometimes things just don't settle in your head. Yeah, I need to be better with that, but I'm getting older. So, fuck it. But yeah, but what I'll say is if you are a major fan of the Godzilla series, like the new series of movies that we're getting, then I think this is a show that is worth watching for you because it does give you that lore behind Monarch and the origins of the monsters in these movie series. If you are a traditional Godzilla fan, I don't know where you would stand in these series of movies. Godzilla Minus One is probably one of the best Godzilla films I've seen in recent years. I don't know where they're going with that. But if you are a traditional Godzilla fan, they do take liberties on things that you may have been growing up with knowing. And they're rewriting the script a little bit. The thing that throws me off the most is that all of these monsters are originating from an alternate dimension. I'm a little like, okay, we're getting a little bit too supernatural sci-fi stuff here. More sci-fi, I would say. Just a little bit too much for my liking. I always loved the whole idea that these monsters were a result of radioactive activity. They got mutated and they became this giant behemoth of a thing. And there are multiples of them, depending on what period of time. The fact that they're all originating from this like alternate dimension, I don't know if I love that at all. But at the end of the day, it was a decent watch. If I were to rate it, I would give it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's not a bad rating, but I enjoyed it. You know, does it give me more? Does it let me appreciate the movies more so? Maybe the first Godzilla, it makes me appreciate that a little bit more. Kong versus Skull Island, maybe a little bit. Like I said, those first 3 movies in this series were not bad at all. It was the moment they had them fighting each other that I felt the change. And that's when we were starting to get a little bit more sci-fi, a little bit more way out there, a little bit more into the Fast and Furious side of things. And now with this new one coming out, with the whole team up against this other Kong-like monster, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I'm still going to watch it, but I don't know about it. All right. So yeah, so that's my review and thoughts on Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I'm curious if you're watching this on the replay or if you happen to be here now and you tuned in around this time. If you've watched this series, I'm dying to know what you thought about it. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. And let me know if you enjoyed this series. And if you agree with anything I said or you disagreed with anything I said. And of course, I understand, I made a mistake. I called the grandmother May. Her name is not May. Her name is Keiko.
I'm gonna come.
Sorry. I made a mistake. All right? It's early. Usually coffee doesn't kick in until 4 hours from now. I suck at names. Maybe that's why I still don't have a girlfriend. All right, stop laughing at me. All right, y'all. This has been a fun morning. Let me take one last look and see if there's anything just worth talking about and chilling out on. If there's anything you'd love to talk about, let me know in the comments now. We have, what time is it now? 11:52. About 8 more minutes, and then I'm gonna head on out and do other stuff during my day. Work on some clip outs and video stuff. Oh yeah, there's this story that dropped yesterday too that apparently Netflix was working on this major sci-fi film with Halle Berry. I'd never heard of it, but I know that a lot of people in the industry, I guess they were aware of it and they kind of like, you know, they were reporting a lot about this. So let's look at that real quick, and this could be the last thing we'll talk about here. So it's a movie called Mothership. And they were kind of equating this to like what Warner Brothers was doing with their properties. You know, the whole Batgirl situation where they kind of like ditched it because, you know, they were trying to use it as a tax write-off. The Acme movie that they're now shopping around, all that. So it says here, you know, when the distribution trend with Batgirl, you know, the whole thing's about like, or stuff that's been completed filming and all that. Several others have followed suit. Most recently, Coyote vs. Acme, with the plan then changed to allow the filmmakers to shop it around. Now, the streaming service is getting in on the vaulting trend with the Insider reporting that Netflix has scrapped its sci-fi thriller The Mothership, starring Halle Berry. The report indicates the project completed filming over 2 years ago, but the studio now plans to never release the film. However, the reasoning this time actually has more justification than a tax write-off. The report indicates the film would require significant reshoots that weren't only expensive but also impractical, as many of the key characters are kids, the young actors having physically grown up a lot in the time since the filming wrapped. In addition, Snyder indicates there were extensive delays in completing post-production, which impacted the decision. Matt Charman penned and directed the film, which also starred Molly Parker, Omari Hardwick, Sidney Lemon, John Ortiz, and Paul Guilfoyle. Barry plays Sarah Morse, a widow whose husband mysteriously vanished from their rural farm a year ago. When she discovers a strange extraterrestrial object underneath their home, she and her kids embark on a race to find him and the truth. This could have been one of those things where it's a Netflix movie that could have totally sucked. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. We've seen it already happen before. You know, not everything Netflix releases hits home. The fact that it's a movie with Halle Berry, I'm sure they were hoping that that would be the driving factor of it all. But at the end of the day, look, are we going to be missing this? I don't know. I don't think so. This could be a nothing situation, but who knows? Will this ever see the light of day? Doesn't sound like it. This definitely sounds like one of those cases where this is going to end up in the lost media realm of the internet, where you're going to have a lot of footage filmed for this movie that is not completed and will never see the light of day because it got scrapped. Very much like Batgirl. Totally completed filming movie. Already went through the post-production process for the most part. And now it's just sitting in a vault somewhere. Or possibly in a landfill with the rest of the ET cartridges from Atari. Who knows? But the difference there is that Batgirl was an anticipated movie versus this that I never heard of. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who never heard about it. And I don't think anyone's going to miss it at the end of the day. So it is what it is there. All right. Let's see. I'm just checking my messages here. Checking messages. Let's have, well, checking messages theme song. Whoa, hold on. Breaking news. Ladies and gentlemen, Jon Stewart is back at The Daily Show. After a year-long search for Trevor Noah's replacement, the longtime host and Noah predecessor has agreed to return on Monday nights through the 2024 election. Let's go. That is brilliant to have Jon Stewart return to where it all started. That is going to be fascinating. Oh man, that's going to be a lot of fun. Hold on, I got to pull this up. Let's read about it. All right, let me put it up on the screen here. Yeah, Jon Stewart returns. So let's see. The new setup, a major coup for the show and for parent company Paramount, is set to begin February 12th. For the remainder of the week, the Comedy Central series will rely on a team of correspondents, which are likely including Jordan Klepper, Desi Liddick, Ronnie Chieng, Michael Costa, Dulce Sloan. Stewart, who spent 16 years at the show, many of them Emmy winning, will be heavily involved as an executive producer on the other nights as well. The move comes after Stewart prematurely exited the Apple TV Plus show The Problem, following creative differences between the iPhone maker and its host over potential topics and guests. Jon Stewart is the voice of our generation, and we are honored to have him return to Comedy Central's The Daily Show to help us all make sense of the insanity and division roiling the country as we enter the election season, said Chris McCarthy, President CEO of Showtime MTV Entertainment Studios. In our age of staggering hypocrisy and performative politics, Jon is the perfect person to puncture the empty rhetoric and provide much-needed clarity with his brilliant wit. Allowing him to return for just one night a week, and notably at the top of the week, likely made it considerably more appealing to Stewart, who was vocal about his level of exhaustion by the end of his initial run. Yeah, I believe, wasn't he like hospitalized because of stress and exhaustion while he was doing the last season or seasons of The Daily Show? Unlike more earnest Apple series, the Daily Show platform allows him to be more topical and thus more relevant. Particularly as the election cycle heats up, Stewart is also expected to be actively involved in shaping new talent for the show as he had done for many years before. In fact, he's largely responsible for launching the careers of Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, Michael Che, Samantha Bee, and Noah, among others. That's exciting. That is going to be exciting to see Jon Stewart return to this format. And you know it's going to be no holds barred with him too. He is going to be swinging and taking stabs at everything that's happening around the election season. So that is fantastic news. I don't know if any of you are excited to hear about that, but I think that is definitely very well noteworthy. So let's see. Anything else? Oh, Deadpool 3 has wrapped filming. Just reading from Discussing Film, the suit hides the blood, also sweat, but today with Deadpool wrapping, it's mostly tears. I got to make a movie with my closest pals, and that doesn't happen very often. That is a quote from Ryan Reynolds. Deadpool 3 will be in theaters on July 26th. So that is also exciting in its own right. I am looking forward to that. That is what I'm calling to be, that is going to be the major hit of this year. All right, let's see. All right, now we have Hillary Clinton chiming in on the whole Margot Robbie, Greta Gerwig snub with a post that she did on social media saying, Greta and Margot, while it can sting to win the box office but not take home the gold, your millions of fans love you. You're both so much more than enough. Hashtag Hillary Barbie. So, how nice of her to chime in there. Let's see. New poster for Dune 2. Don't really care about that. Oh, look at that. Warner Brothers, in their pursuit to earn money, they're spreading the love with all their properties. Warner Brothers has made a deal to release the Sex and the City series on Netflix in April. So they're licensing off their properties, which is something they've already started to do. That's why you could see DC movies on Netflix. You could see them on, I think eventually they're making their way to Tubi. So it's just another avenue of revenue for them that I think makes sense. Let's see what other stuff may be worth just mentioning here while we close out the morning. Okay, just a lot of little tidbits happening throughout the morning here. For all you Pal World fans out there, Pokemon and Pal World have a lot in common. Copyright law says that's likely legal. Game's a game. I've never tried it. I tried to try it over the weekend, but I was really upset and disappointed because for whatever reason, you cannot cross-play from Xbox to PC. The hell's wrong with it?
I'm gonna come.
Let's see. Anything else worth mentioning? Nope. Doesn't look like anything else. So, again, it was the major news was really the Oscars from yesterday, this WWE news and all that. So yeah, so that's it. That's going to be the morning. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching, whether you watched live or during the replay. Obviously, I'd love to hear from all of you. Big shout out to Star-Lord again, who kept me company this morning. Love that. But yeah, let me know which of the headlines, topics really interested you the most. Let's have a conversation about that. I will be back again on Friday, talk about headlines, and that will be video game day, where that is the day we'll be talking more about video game related news, topics, what I'm playing, all that stuff. Maybe I'll play something online as well. We'll see. But hopefully we'll tune in, close out the week that way, welcome in the weekend with something fun. So enjoy your midweek. You've made it this far. Only a couple more days to go. We're in the home stretch. So enjoy the rest of your week. If I don't see you Friday, hope you enjoy your weekend. Hope I'll see you eventually next time. But with all that being said, until next time, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. I will catch you all in the next one. All right. Peace out, y'all. It still looks like shit out there. And no, I'm not coming soon. Or starting soon. I'm leaving. Bye!
I'm gonna come.